Hey English learners, welcome back to Talk English with Emma, your friendly place to improve your English through simple, real-life conversations. I'm Emma.
And I'm Alex, and we are so genuinely happy you are here with us today, wherever you are in the world right now. And we know our listeners come from the most wonderful variety of places. Thank you for spending this time with us. It means more than you know.
On this channel, we make English learning easy, practical, and enjoyable. We focus on everyday speaking, useful expressions, and conversations that help you sound more natural and confident. If you enjoy learning with us, please like this episode, subscribe to Talk English with Emma, and share it with a friend who is learning English too. Every share truly helps us reach more learners around the world. Okay. Let's talk about today's topic.
Emma, can I ask you something?
Always.
Have you ever had a moment abroad in a foreign country, in a place where you did not speak the language perfectly, maybe where you were a little lost or a little overwhelmed, where something happened that you still think about years later?
Yes, immediately yes, without even having to think.
Tell me.
I was in a small town in Portugal. I had been traveling alone for about a week, and I was tired in that specific way you get when you have been moving too much and have not had a proper conversation with anyone you know. And I went into a little bakery to get something to eat, and my Portuguese was almost zero, and the woman behind the counter was older, and she had no English. And we just stood there for a moment, looking at each other across this complete language barrier. And then she smiled, and she picked up a pastry and she held it up and raised her eyebrows, as if to say, "This one?" And I laughed and said yes, and she wrapped it carefully and handed it to me, and said something I did not understand, but the warmth in her voice needed no translation. And I walked out into the street. And I stood there in the sunshine eating that pastry, and I felt this wave of something I can only describe as being completely alive, like every cell in me was awake at once.
Emma, that story, every time you tell it,
I know, and I have told it many times, because it is one of those moments that lives in you, that does not fade, that still feels warm when you go back to it years later.
And that is exactly what today's episode is about. Not just how to talk about traveling abroad in English, but how to talk about it in a way that keeps those moments alive, that does justice to the experience. Because travel is one of the richest topics in any conversation. People light up when they talk about it. And yet, most English learners, when someone asks about their travels, say something like, "It was amazing, the food was good, the people were friendly." And then it stops, and the moment, that extraordinary, specific, irreplaceable moment, disappears.
And we do not want your moments to disappear. So today, we have 3 ideas that will completely change how you talk about traveling abroad in English. 3 ways of finding the words for the experience you actually had. 3 ways of finding the words for the experience you actually had. And the third idea, Alex, I want to say this now. The third one is the one that even experienced English speakers often miss. And it is probably the most important one in this whole episode.
So please stay with us all the way to the end. But let us begin. Idea number 1. Stop describing the destination. Start describing what it did to you. Because here is how most travel conversations go wrong. Someone asks, "How was your trip to Japan?" And the answer is, "It was incredible. Tokyo is so busy and so organized at the same time. The food is amazing. The people are so polite." And all of that might be true, but it tells the listener almost nothing about you, nothing about what you specifically experienced, nothing about what changed in you or surprised you or broke open something inside you that you did not expect to find.
And travel, real travel, always does something to you. Not just to your eyes, but to something deeper. It shows you things about yourself you did not know. It gives you a perspective you could not have gotten any other way. And that is what your listener actually wants to hear. Not a review of the destination, a story about what happened to you there.
Let me give you a comparison. Same trip, two ways of talking about it. Version 1. I went to Morocco last year. Marrakesh was incredible. The markets were so colorful and chaotic. The food was delicious. I loved the architecture. Version 2. I went to Morocco last year and I was not prepared for how it would make me feel. I grew up in a quiet city where everything is very ordered and predictable, and Marrakesh was the complete opposite of everything I knew. The sounds, the smells, the pace of it, the colors, all of it was so intense that on the first day I actually had to go back to my hotel and just sit quietly for an hour. And then on the second day, something shifted. I stopped trying to make sense of it, and I just let it be what it was. And that afternoon in the souk, I had one of the most joyful experiences of my adult life, just wandering, completely lost, with no plan, buying things I did not need, talking to people I would never see again.
Which version makes you want to go to Morocco?
The second one, every time.
And which version tells you more about the person who went?
The second one, completely.
And the English in the second version was not more advanced. I was not prepared for. Something shifted. I just let it be what it was. These are all simple, natural phrases, but they are honest, and honesty always travels further than vocabulary.
I want to share something personal. My first time abroad was when I was 19. I went to Italy with 3 friends. We had almost no money and no plan, and we had booked the cheapest accommodation we could find, which turned out to be a room above a restaurant that smelled permanently of garlic and cigarettes, and we thought it was the best place we had ever stayed.
Of course you did.
And on our last night, we were sitting outside at a little table eating the cheapest pasta we could find, which cost almost nothing and tasted like the best thing any of us had ever eaten. And one of my friends said, "Do you think it actually tastes this good, or is it just because we're here?" And I've been thinking about that question ever since, because I think the answer is both. The pasta was good, and being there made it better. And I think that's true of so much in life. The experience changes the thing, and the thing changes the experience.
Do you think it actually tastes this good, or is it just because we're here? That's one of the best questions I have ever heard.
19 years old and already a philosopher.
So remember idea number 1. When you talk about traveling abroad in English, do not describe the place. Describe what the place did to you, the moment you were not prepared for, the thing that shifted inside you, the experience that made everything taste better just because you were there. Okay, idea number 2, and this one is practical. This one is about the language itself. Because traveling abroad means encountering a very specific set of English conversations at airports, at hotels, at restaurants, at tourist attractions, with locals, with other travelers. And knowing the natural English phrases for these situations makes the whole experience easier and richer.
Let us start with airports and travel, because the airport is where most international journeys begin, and the English there can feel very formal and a little intimidating. So let us make it comfortable. When you check in at the airport, some useful phrases are, "I have a reservation under my name," or "Could I request a window seat, please?" or "How many bags can I check in?" or "Is my connection enough time?" That last one is important. It means, do I have enough time between my 2 flights to make it to the gate?
And if something goes wrong, which in travel it sometimes does, some very useful phrases are, "My flight has been delayed. What are my options?" Or, "I have missed my connection. Can you help me rebook?" Or, "My luggage has not arrived. Where do I report this?" These phrases are calm and direct, and they get you the help you need. And the most important thing when things go wrong abroad is to stay calm and ask clearly. A calm, clear question in English gets a much faster and more helpful response than a panicked one.
At a hotel, the most useful check-in phrases are, "I have a reservation. My name is blank." Or, "Could I get a room on a higher floor, please?" Or, "Is breakfast included?" And if something is not right with your room, which does happen, you can say, "Excuse me, the air conditioning in my room does not seem to be working." Or, "Could I possibly be moved to a different room?" The key is always to be polite and specific, not vague complaints, but clear descriptions of what the problem is.
Now let's talk about one of the most enjoyable parts of traveling abroad, talking to local people, because those conversations, when they happen, are often the ones that stay with you longest. And in English, there are some wonderful phrases for connecting with locals naturally. You can say, "Could you recommend somewhere that the locals actually eat, not the tourist restaurants, somewhere real?" That question always gets a good answer because people love sharing the places they love, and they love knowing that you care about the real version of their city rather than the version made for visitors.
Or you can say, "I've only been here 2 days. What is one thing you think I absolutely should not miss?" That question gives someone permission to tell you their personal favorite thing, and personal favorites are always more interesting than official recommendations.
And if you want to start a conversation with a fellow traveler, someone you meet in a hostel common room or on a long train journey or at a cafe, some natural openers are, "Where are you headed?" Or "How long have you been traveling?" Or "Is this your first time here?" These are all easy, warm questions that open conversations naturally, and traveling is one of the few contexts where striking up a conversation with a complete stranger is completely normal and often expected.
There's a kind of instant connection between travelers that is hard to explain, but very real. You're all temporary people in a place that's not your home, and that shared impermanence creates an openness that you don't often feel in ordinary daily life. Conversations happen faster. People are more honest, more willing to share, more curious about each other.
That shared impermanence. Alex, that's such a good phrase for it.
And knowing how to have those conversations naturally, warmly, in English is one of the most valuable skills you can build as a language learner, because those conversations are where real life happens when you travel.
Idea 2 in one sentence. Learn the practical English of traveling. The airport phrases, the hotel phrases, the restaurant phrases, the local conversation starters. Not to sound like a phrase book, but to feel at home wherever you land.
And now, the third idea, the one Emma mentioned at the beginning, the one she said even experienced English speakers often miss.
Yes, here it is. Idea number 3. When you come home from traveling abroad and someone asks you how it was, resist the word amazing, and instead find the word that is actually true.
Resist the word amazing.
Because amazing has become the emptiest word in travel English. It means everything, and therefore it means nothing. Every trip is amazing, every city is amazing, every meal is amazing, every view is amazing. And when everything is amazing, nothing is amazing. The word has lost its power through overuse, and your experience deserves better than an overused, empty word.
And this is not just about travel, it is about precision in English, finding the exact word for the exact feeling, because English has so many words for the things that happen to us when we travel, and each one of them is more interesting and more specific than amazing.
For example, if your trip was overwhelming in a good way, if there was too much beauty and noise and newness, and you did not know where to look, the word is exhilarating. I came back completely exhilarated. It was too much and I loved it. Or if your trip was quieter than expected and it gave you something you had been missing, the word might be restorative. It was the most restorative week I have had in years. I came back feeling like myself again. Or if something unexpected happened that changed the way you see something, the word might be eye-opening. It was genuinely eye-opening. I thought I understood the place, but I understood nothing until I was there.
Or if the trip was difficult and beautiful at the same time, if it pushed you and rewarded you in equal measure, the word might be transformative. It was transformative. I went one person and I came back slightly different. Not in a dramatic way, just shifted. Like something had moved a few degrees inside me, and everything looked slightly different after.
I want to tell you about a conversation I had when I came back from my first solo trip. A friend asked me how it was, and I said, it was transformative. And she said, what do you mean? And I thought about it for a moment, and I said, I mean that I had this moment alone in a city where I knew no one and did not speak the language, and I had to figure everything out by myself. And I did. And coming home, I just felt more capable, more confident, more like the person I want to be. Like the trip had given me evidence that I could do things I was not sure I could do. And my friend went quiet for a moment, and then she said, I have never taken a solo trip because I'm afraid. Can you tell me more about it? And we talked for 2 hours.
One precise word, transformative, instead of amazing, and the whole conversation opened up.
Because precise words invite questions. They make people curious. They create space for a real conversation rather than a polite exchange of superlatives. And when you travel abroad and come home and someone asks how it was, you have a story worth telling, you have a feeling worth describing, and you deserve a word that is equal to that feeling.
So, idea number 3. When you talk about traveling abroad in English, find the precise word, the word that is actually true for what you experienced. Not the easiest word, the truest one, because the truest word is always the most interesting one.
Okay, let us slow down and do our word tour, a gentle walk through some of the words that will make your travel conversations richer and more alive.
First word, immerse. To immerse yourself in something means to involve yourself completely, to go in fully. When you immerse yourself in a culture, you do not stay on the surface. You try to understand it from the inside. You eat what the locals eat. You go where they go. You try to understand the rhythms and the values of the place. For example, I tried to immerse myself in the culture rather than just visit the tourist spots. Or, the best thing about long trips is that you have time to really immerse yourself rather than just pass through. Say it. Immerse. Immerse. A word with depth in it.
Next word, disorienting. Disorienting means confusing in a way that makes you lose your sense of direction or certainty. When something is disorienting, you do not know quite where you are or how things work. A new country can be disorienting. New signs, new sounds, new social rules, new rhythms. And that disorientation is often uncomfortable at first, but it is also where the real learning begins. For example, the first day in a completely new culture is always a little disorienting, but I have learned to sit with that feeling rather than fight it. Or, the jet lag made everything feel disorienting in those first few days. Say it. Disorienting. Disorienting.
Next phrase, culture shock. Culture shock is the feeling of confusion, discomfort, and anxiety that can come from being in an unfamiliar culture, from encountering ways of doing things that are very different from what you are used to. It's a real and well-documented experience, and almost everyone who travels abroad for a significant amount of time or who moves to a new country experiences some form of it. For example, I had real culture shock in my first week. Everything was different. The food, the pace, the way people interacted with strangers. It took me about 2 weeks to start feeling comfortable. Say it. Culture shock. Culture shock.
Next word, wander. We have used this word before, but it is so perfect for travel conversations. To wander means to walk without a fixed destination, to follow your curiosity, to let the street take you where it wants to. And some of the best travel moments come from wandering, from turning down a street because it looked interesting, from following a sound or a smell or a color. For example, I spent the whole afternoon just wandering through the old city with no map and no plan, and I found things I never would have found if I had been following a guidebook. Or, the best way to understand a city is to wander through it on foot. Say it. Wander. Wander.
Next word, homesick. Homesick means missing home, missing the people, the places, the food, the routines, the language of your own life. Almost everyone who travels abroad for a significant amount of time feels homesick at some point, and being able to name it and talk about it makes it a little more bearable. For example, I was fine for the first 2 weeks, but then, suddenly, I became very homesick. I missed small things, my own bed, the way my neighborhood smells, the sound of my own language everywhere. Or, homesickness isn't just missing home, it's missing the version of yourself that you are at home. Say it, homesick. Homesick. A small, honest, important word.
And our last word today, perspective. Perspective means the way you see things, your point of view. When travel gives you perspective, it means it has shown you something from a new angle, made you see your own life differently by showing you a different way of living. For example, traveling gave me perspective on what I actually need to be happy. It turns out it's much less than I thought. Or, meeting people from completely different backgrounds and ways of life gives you perspective that you simply cannot get any other way. Say it. Perspective. Perspective. A word that widens everything.
6 words today. Immerse, disorienting, culture shock, wander, homesick, and perspective. Each one of these words is a door into a real travel conversation. Use one of them the next time someone asks you about a trip you have taken or a place you have been, and watch how the conversation changes.
Now it is your turn. And this is the part we always love most.
Yes, because this is where the English becomes yours.
Here is your challenge. Think about a moment from traveling abroad. Or, if you have not traveled yet, think about the place you most want to go and why it calls to you, and write about it in the comments. In English. In your words. In the words you have today.
You could write about a moment that surprised you, or a moment that disoriented you, and what you learned from sitting with that feeling. Or you could use one of today's words. Maybe, traveling to blank gave me perspective on blank. Or, the most disorienting moment of my trip was when blank. Or, I wandered into blank and found blank.
Or maybe you want to write about what traveling means to you personally, why you want to do it, or why you love it, or what you are hoping it will give you. Because that is a beautiful kind of travel writing too, the travel that has not happened yet, but lives very vividly inside you.
Write it, however simply, however briefly. One sentence is more than enough. One true sentence always is.
And know that when you write your comment, you are doing something brave. You are putting an experience that matters to you, that lives in you, into a language you are still learning. And that is not a small thing. That is the whole point of all of this. Language that is connected to real experience is language that stays, that grows, that becomes yours permanently.
And your moment might be exactly what another learner needed to read today. Someone who has a trip coming up and is nervous, or someone who has been abroad and has not found the words for what they felt. And then they read your sentence and they think, yes, that's it. That's what I felt too. And thank you for finding the words first.
Before we finish, we want to say something to you. If you have ever stood in a foreign country, not knowing the language, not knowing the customs, not knowing quite where you are going, and you have done it anyway, you already know something important about courage. And that same courage that carried you through a disorienting first day in an unfamiliar city is the same courage that is carrying you through learning English. They are the same thing, showing up, trying, getting lost, finding your way, doing it again.
Travel and language learning are more similar than they seem. Both take you somewhere unfamiliar. Both require you to let go of certainty. Both change you in ways that are hard to measure but impossible to deny.
And both are completely worth it, every single step. If this episode helped you, please give it a like, subscribe to Talk English with Emma, and share it with a friend who loves to travel or who is planning their first trip abroad. Your support helps us reach more learners every week.
Until next time, take care of your English and take care of your wandering. Both kinds. This was Talk English with Emma. I'm Alex.
And I'm Emma. We will see you in the next episode. Safe travels, everyone. Bye for now.